I'm the Animist, and you are watching the Video and Company Podcast, a podcast where we talk about filmmaking and running a video production business. Today we have Jake Colletta, who is a Steadicam op and DP. Jake is a beast at what he does, and his work is nothing short of amazing. We talk about his relationship with Caravan, what's it like to be a Steadicam operator, and working on projects ranging from Disney, Gucci Mane, and top 50 pop hit Trampoline by Shade. I'm super appreciative for him coming on to the show, and it really couldn't have gone any more better. So without further ado, here's Jake Colletta. All right, we're live.
Here we go. We're doing it.
Yeah. Jake Colletta, thanks for coming on.
Happy to be here.
So I'm going to do this one a little differently. I'm going to try
Sure.
not to look at notes too much too. So instead of, usually I do a little like how'd you get started, where you're at, and how you got to there. But with this one, can you tell me a couple of what you would think is your greatest achievements in your career as of right now? And then we'll backtrack into like all the different things, because you do multiple things.
Sure.
So you can talk about like those few positions you hold most dear and some of those social proofing achievements of yours.
Sure. Yeah. Oh man, that's a loaded question. Absolutely. So I am a director of photography and Steadicam operator. My greatest achievements. That's so hard to quantify. I feel like I get excited shooting a project, and then it could be 5 minutes after the project is done and we're wrapped, and I'm like, why the hell did I do that? Like, why did I do this one thing this way? If I could do that differently, I would, which I think to an extent is healthy, kind of raising the bar on yourself. But I'll stay away from that rabbit hole. But if I could think of immediately, like a project that comes to my mind, would be a music video I had the opportunity of shooting last year with a director friend of mine, Max Haben. It was in Baltimore. It's for a band that since has really taken off, which was really cool at the time. They have not ceased to be any more talented than they are. If anything, they keep on growing in ability and viewership, or people who listen anyways. But music video is called Trampoline. It's for a band called Shade. They're based out of the Baltimore, D.C. area, and you probably at this point have heard the song on the radio a few thousands of times. I think it's been number one in the pop chart and indie chart for a good while. But it was a project that was super meaningful to me. I had worked with Max previously on another music video for the same band. And in that capacity, it was more of a Steadicam operator, less of a director of photography, though I did have some input on some creative decisions. And then he approached me like, hey, same band, we're doing a music video. I would love for you to be the director of photography on it. Of course, at this point in my career where I'm getting more opportunities to do that, I'm going to jump on any opportunity I can. So I was like, absolutely, that sounds great. I would love to be a part of this. The song is incredible. I had a feeling that it was going to be something. I wasn't quite sure when. You never really know with music videos, because you have bands who've been out for tens of years who no one's really heard of, and then it just takes that one label, that one radio station to hear it or want to put it on, and it just takes off from there. So that was this instance where we shot this video. Super stoked about it. It's probably one of my favorite videos of all time. We shot in a white psych, super clean look, and really got to push the art department wardrobe and the props, the kind of the tangible quality of a production that I find that often people overlook. That I feel like really takes it from, okay, like this is a high production value, to like, okay, this is really high production value. Like it just puts it over the top. So I think since the video, I actually checked the other day, I think they just reached about 10 million plays on the music video on YouTube, which is pretty rad.
That's wild.
Yeah, it's insane. It's funny because when it first came out, it was like, okay, I think a couple thousand, 100,000 or so. And it was like that for a while, where it was just shy of like a million, maybe a couple 100,000, which is still incredible given all the content on YouTube. And but it wasn't until where was it? I think so. The song was used on an Apple MacBook Air commercial, which I think was really the catalyst for their success as not only as a band but as this music video as well. So it's it's been a privilege to be a part of something that's really taken off. Yeah, it's been awesome.
Yeah, I mean, like being on an Apple commercial, like the song, that's like almost more official than like a Grammy.
Sure.
It feels like.
Yeah.
Like, have you ever heard of Louis the Child?
Yeah.
I was a big fan of them, and then like they got put on a Apple commercial, and it's like they were already big beforehand, but it was like just it's the ultimate legitimization.
Sure.
And like being a part of a project that like was lucky enough to have that, like that's intense.
Totally, especially a product or a company like Apple, where it's like, okay, this is like one of the top 10 companies in the world, so it's like, whoa,
yeah,
they're doing it.
You mentioned that and we talked about this the last time we met up, is the actual like set design and production design, and how that was like really what brought everything to the top. And
Totally.
in a world where everybody's about like gear and resolutions and all that stuff, like really, and there's always going to be the one guy in the back that's like, oh, it's about the story. It's like, yeah, it's about story, but like like for stuff to look great, like it's really about like what you're putting in front of the camera. It's not what is behind the camera.
Totally.
And I wanted to talk a little bit more about that. So like, and you can use other references, like other gigs, but like why do you think that it was such a big deal, and why it changed so much for the project? Just those few things, like art department.
Totally. Don't get me wrong. Like we had the opportunity to use some like really amazing pieces of glass. So we used K35s and shot Alexa Mini, and we had some great tools at our disposal. But I think there are a lot of projects out there that you can shoot on equally as nice glass, if not nicer, or equally as nice of a camera, if not more so. But there's a quality that comes from proper wardrobe, makeup, props, art direction in general, that it really just elevates a production value. I feel like it definitely can take an amateur feeling piece and make it feel professional, whether that be on a scale of $100,000 music video or on the scale of a $500 music video. If you're intentional with the details and you're not willing to compromise in the little things, I think that speaks so much about what you're willing to create as an artist, as well as just the piece in general. It's like, why are you willing to, you wouldn't put a talent in like a blown out room and like your image is completely blown out. So like, why would you not want to take the same care with tiny little details? I really feel like it's those details that can take it from 99.9 to 100.
Yeah. And there's a lot of like producing that goes, or like a lot of the producer role that like is to get all those things organized is like really a pain. And
sure,
I had a music video that got shelved, and it was the most we had put into pre-production and art department. It was like an achievement, like trucks, delivery drivers, greenhouses, florists, studios, and I since then haven't even had a job remotely close to as big, and it got shelved. But it was like it was beautiful because we did everything we were supposed to do, and then it got shelved. Yeah. So that sucks.
Yeah, that's never fun. Unfortunately, projects get canned from time to time, and it is what it is. You kind of got to pick up and move on, and hopefully get to recreate the magic that you knew was there.
It's for sure a learning experience.
Absolutely. Location's another one.
Yeah.
I think, location can take a piece and bring it to another level. You could have boring content, put it in an interesting looking location, and instantly someone's like, oh, whoa. Yeah. Okay, what do you got going on here? This is pretty interesting. So yeah, don't overlook those.
So I guess now we can backtrack a little bit and like kind of like find out how you came to be. And are you originally, like, where were you born?
Yeah, so I was born and raised in Montreal, Canada.
Montreal, Canada. How How did I not know that?
Not many people know that.
Okay.
I feel like it's easy to overlook, because I mean, unless you ask or like really
I
are
kind of get a
intentional about it.
Canadian vibe off you,
Do
though.
you?
Yeah, a little
Okay,
bit.
well maybe it's just maple syrup
just
just like
surface
pouring out
level.
of it. Yeah. No, yeah, I grew up in Montreal, lived there for about 10 years, moved with my family to Connecticut, and I lived there for 6 years, and then moved to Charlotte about 10 years ago.
Right, and that was around school, and that's when we first met.
That's right, yeah.
Right. So like how, because I mean the show is filmmaking and the business side of it, which we'll get into later, but
Sure.
like filmmaking in Charlotte specifically, kind of ish. So like, how were you able to get into what you're doing now, like in town?
Yeah,
Because you said you don't work much in town now.
I don't.
So how
no.
did it start for you?
Yeah, so I got my start much like I feel like many other filmmakers. I was making the home video. There was home videos being made at home. You know, my dad always took videos of our family when we went on vacation. Just anything we did with family, it would be it's somewhere on VHS in our house. So that kind of carried over to my whole life, where I never really applied myself fully in school. I was not super interested in math and science, and I did fine. You know, it's like, okay, I have to do this. But when it came to the arts, I was like, okay, I'm so about this music, art. So anything from photography, pottery, painting, drawing, I was about it. So that also carried over into traditional classes. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna rather than having to write this 5-page essay, I'm gonna do like a video instead, because I feel like you always had those alternatives, which is a really weird contrast. It's like, yeah, you can write this super long essay, or you can make a video project. Like, why wouldn't you make a video project?
Yeah.
I feel like that's just so much better, at least for me, anyways. So I always opted out to do those types of pieces. So I was always like the media guy. Always did video projects, and I fell into some classes in high school. And it was fun, you know, I really enjoyed it, but I didn't think of anything of it career-wise. It's like, okay, this is a hobby. People don't make money doing film, or like, what is a film industry? I had no idea of these concepts. I had no clue. It wasn't until, I have to say, maybe my freshman year of college, I was doing community college with the intention of being like in business. Just I wanted to be my own boss. I wanted to start a small business. I had no idea what that meant, or the capacity or in specific avenue, but I knew I didn't want to have a traditional 9 to 5. Fast forward a little bit later, I had some friends who worked at a local church, who did some incredible work, and I was like, okay, whoa, they're getting paid to do that? That's pretty cool. They're making incredible content. I was like, you know what? Maybe I can. Maybe there is something there. Maybe I can pursue something. So I bought I think it was like a T3i, the classic camera of all starting filmmakers out there. Canon, if you want to sponsor me, you can feel free to reach me at jcolettafilms@gmail.com. But yeah, so I started shooting weddings. I feel like that's another common pathway. My wife, my now wife, girlfriend at the time, her family owned a wedding venue. So I was like, this is the perfect in. I can shoot weddings for them, or anyone who would want to hire me. So did that. And it kind of segued and slowly evolved into learning more about the industry. And, okay, I want to grow as a filmmaker. How do I do that? Film school, naturally, right? Well, I definitely could not afford going to film school, especially the ones I wanted to go to, like Savannah College of Art and Design, for instance, which is where a lot of friends had gone. So rather than doing that, I was going to move to Nashville, and there was a technical school for like a year. My sisters lived in Nashville at the time. I'm like, this will be perfect. Move to Nashville. I have family there. I'll learn for a year. I think the incentive was they threw in like a MacBook Pro at the time. So I was like,
the school?
Yeah, it was part of like the tuition. You got this laptop.
Right.
So I'm like, totally. Yeah, I get a laptop out of it.
Clever.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. It's this little dangling carrot that I'm sure in retrospect wouldn't help in any regard. But
yeah,
I can't exactly remember what happened, but I guess I lost focus for a second and reached out to the same guy I knew who was working at this church, and I had heard he moved and started working at a production company, which is a production company called Caravan now. And I reached out to them, was like, hey, you guys do incredible work. I would love to learn. If I could just like come by sometime and learn from you guys, I would be honored. This was 6-7 years ago now at this time. And I got an email back like, hey, we actually just posted on Twitter that we're looking for interns. So if you want to apply, like, go ahead. So I applied and I got it with another guy, and the rest is kind of history. They taught me so much about the industry, and I didn't know what a C-stand was. I barely knew the concept of ISO, IRIS, and how those all worked in conjunction with each other. So it was a super formative time of my life, and there's still such great friends and associates that I work with, but I owe them so much. But yeah, so I had the opportunity to work with them. That segued into working actually at the church for a contract period. And then I think that was about 6 months. Left there, worked at an editing house, which is no longer around anymore. Did that for about 6 months as well. And then got a full-time job at a local full-service agency in Monroe, North Carolina.
Okay.
Yeah. So I did that for about 2 years. And then I kind of felt like I was at a point where freelance seemed like something I wanted to do. I wanted to kind of raise the ceiling of my learning potential. So I feel like there's only so much you can do when you are like you or another individual at a similar level as you are, or the cinematographer, editors. So I was like, okay, I need to learn under people who have done it before me and who are way farther ahead in experience and ability.
Yeah.
So that's what I did. About 2.5 years ago, I made the jump to freelance, and it's been the scariest, best decision of my life.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
I wish I had done that. The whole like going under someone who's like better than you.
Sure.
I think it's probably somewhat of an introvert thing. But like, yeah, I can tell like a lot of people that have very good success, they all kind of have that. And it seems that you really hit all the points. Like you did some agency work. You interned at like, you couldn't have interned at a better place.
Yeah, if I had known that, yeah.
Yeah. And so like you kind of like did all the paces. I mean, did you end up going to the school or did you drop it?
I didn't. I dropped it completely. And I think technically I'm still enrolled in community college.
Oh, really?
So
is it CP?
That's like their sister college, like SPCC.
Oh,
which
yeah.
It's like
That's
South
the one that's
versus
like
Central.
by Sun Valley, right?
Exactly.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
So that's where I went. Exactly. It was near where I went to high school. So I was like, this is perfect. So I think I could technically finish, but at this point, there's no point.
It's like I've been meeting people recently, and they're asking me like, would you get a job? I'm like, I don't think at this point feels like if I got a job, I would be hindering myself. Like there'd be a pay ceiling, there would be a like limit on like the type of work. Like
Sure.
I don't see any single benefit other than health insurance.
Right.
But it's like,
yeah, benefits are nice.
I will just not go to the hospital, so I'll be fine.
Right. Yeah, just eat an apple a day and you'll be fine. I think that's how it goes.
Yeah,
It's going to be one apple, you're fine for the rest of your life.
So Steadicam and DP is like your big thing.
Right.
And you said you gaff a little bit.
I do, yeah. I gaff occasionally. I think that's probably my favorite aspect of DPing is being able to work with a gaffer and help set the vision, you know, and I think lighting is a super important proponent of that, if not the most, for me anyways. There's some DPs who are just all about in camera and they could care less. Like, if I have a gaffer they trust, they'll let them do their thing. And, of course they'll lean into it if they need to. But I definitely like to be more involved and kind of get an understanding of how we're going to motivate a specific scene and get a say and feel into it for sure.
Well, so this is something that like I'm learning more and more about is the ladder. So like you probably experienced this with Caravan and you've probably experienced it with your freelance career because you're very well connected. You're very, you're doing very well. You're a blessed man.
Yes.
And so like you've experienced the ladder of like, there's second AC to first AC, and that's how
Right.
you get to like the camera. You then have a decision to go to like the DP, or if there's, there's
Totally.
all those different like ways to go. But like, I've been thinking about it recently. Like, how does a gaffer start out? Like, who's below? Is it like, are you just
Sure.
grip and then you move on, or
Yeah. So scope of projects really dictate a lot of positions. Because, oftentimes you can look at a project and you have a skeleton crew of just like the essentials.
Mhm.
So you could have like your DP, maybe a first AC, a gaffer, maybe a grip, a producer director, maybe a sound guy. And that's like your basic skeleton crew.
maybe a sound guy?
If it's MOS,
Right.
if you have like interviews, for instance, then sure.
Gotcha.
But as you get into bigger scopes of projects, as you get the bigger G&E crew. So I mean, you have key grip, you have your grip, you got your best boy, you got your best boy electric, you got your rigging grip. Like there are all so many specialized pieces
Mhm.
to a set that are all super important and integral, but aren't necessarily needed in every project. Mostly, you're going to see those in narrative feature, big commercial music video type of a world. It's tough when you're on a budget and you're like, okay, maybe we don't necessarily need a full G&E crew for this. We don't need 5 grips, a key grip, best boy electric, like all these roles.
Right.
So, but to answer your question, the majority of these gaffers come up through gripping, working under other experienced gaffers, or have started building an inventory of lights. There's an incredible up and coming gaffer in Charlotte, TJ, which if you ever get a chance, I would totally reach out to him and meet him. He's really something.
What's his last name?
It's TJ Morrison.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Have you met him?
I thought I think he's working with, what's his name?
Dylan Hahn? Yeah. They're on a music
in
video
the Outer
now.
Banks.
Yeah, absolutely.
He posted last night that it was for Mothica. I'm a Mothica fan. I was
Yeah.
like, oh, snap. Like,
Yeah.
I know who that is. Also, Outer Banks, like, that's where my family's from. So
Yeah.
I thought that was, like, super
It's
cool.
a star-studded team out there.
So he's becoming a gaffer.
Yeah.
Or he is
He
like
is a
an
gaffer.
up-and-coming
Yeah.
gaffer.
I've used him quite a few times, and he's great. He's a prime example of kind of jumping in with some local G&E guys and learning with them, but also doing gaffing on this his own gaffing and been growing this inventory list. Super talented guy, super nice guy. Highly recommend working with him if you get the chance. All those guys, I mean, Dylan, Elizabeth Coggins, Hudson Stafford, Brian French. It's like essentially the crew that's out there right now.
Mm-hmm.
All studs. Yeah, they're great.
So, Steadicamming is
Sure.
like kind of, from an outside looking in and from the conversations we've been having lately, Steadicam seems to be your bread and butter.
Yeah, right now I'm probably about, especially this year, I'm about 85% Steadicam to 15% DPing, which is great. I love Steadicam operating. It's been an awesome avenue to get me closer to the end goal of being a full-time DP. I think going back to your previous question of the hierarchy, so to speak, and working your way up through the ranks, I started PAing, I did some gripping. I kind of had a little touch in each department, but I definitely lived more so in the camera department versus G&E. But I did second AC for a while, few first AC jobs. It really wasn't for me. There are those people who are super technically gifted and know all the latest firmware updates and know all the latest toys and can problem solve the hell out of anything. Like, you want those people in your corner. Like when I do a job that I'm DPing or even Steadicam operating, I want that guy with me. Because if I encounter a problem, I want someone who I know can handle it. But that just wasn't for me. So Steadicam was a great way for me to still work with DPs and learn under them, but still have some semblance of a creative decision and work on my camera movement and my camera ability and still continue to grow.
What made you like even attempt to go that avenue?
Man,
like, because you're kind of, I wouldn't say new at it, but like you haven't been doing it for 10 years, right?
Sure. So there are some operators who've 10 years, 20 years, 30-year veterans who are just tanks. They're the studs of the industry. There's
Mhm.
like, you look at it like that's a dolly. You're like, no, that's that guy. He's just been doing it forever and he's incredible. So that's definitely a level I aspire to. But I'm 2 years into Steadicam operating, which is like I'm baby fresh. So I've got a long way to go. But I'm trying not to let it get me down sometimes because you look at people's work, as I feel like many creatives do in any capacity, any role. You can look at other people's work and instantly compare yourself to them.
Mhm.
So working diligently on not being discouraged by the ability of others, but more so let that be an incentive for myself. To be, okay, like, yeah, you can do that. You just got to put in the time and the effort, just like anything else.
Well, I mean, I feel like your schedule, like you take one glance at your schedule and just realize like I'm being hired constantly.
Sure.
Like that should be like extremely validating, I would think.
Yeah, it definitely is. But you know how we all are.
Yeah.
We all get in our own heads
Yeah.
sometimes. So it's definitely guilty of that. But I've definitely been super blessed with people I've met and having awesome opportunities thrown my way. But Steadicam has been incredible.
And you did it was a Tiffin program,
Yeah.
and
So
you have and talk about that, and then
sure.
also talk about a little bit about like the setup, because I don't think um I'm not super sure if like the audience that this show's like prone to like is super knowledgeable about all this stuff, because it's
Yeah.
kind of like a lot of people are kind of either friends of ours or they're kind of just starting out.
Sure. Yeah. So Steadicam started because I reached out to when I first went freelance, like the first 4 months of going freelance. I chose the best season. I chose the holiday season to go freelance, which, if any freelancers out there know, is the hardest season because there's almost no work for a lot of us. You can get projects, but for the most part, it's a tough season. So I had like no work for the first 4 months. So I was reaching out to everyone I knew, cold calling, Instagram messaging, just reaching out to see who's out there that I can meet with and I potentially work with. So I reached out to the nicest man on earth, Dave Svensson, who is a veteran Steadicam operator. He's essentially my mentor with Steadicam, and he's also an incredible director of photography. Works a lot with Fox and NASCAR and a lot of the broadcast side of things. So I reached out, was like, "Hey, would love to meet, grab coffee." He's, being the nicest man he is, was like, "Yes, we're doing this. Let's meet up." So we're talking. Was like, "Hey, I'd love to AC for you." Because at that point, that's all I knew.
Mm-hmm.
I was living in the camera department, second day seeing, first day seeing. So I was like, "I'd love to AC for you." He's like, "Okay, awesome." Because I'm also doing this workshop. I'm a Steadicam operator as well. Like, I'm doing this workshop in Kentucky at this university for people who are interested in learning about Steadicam. It's mainly geared toward the students there, but we have some open spots for outside interest. So I was like, okay, whoa, Steadicam. Never really thought of it. Never really crossed my mind. I was a big fan of gimbals. I
Mm-hmm.
love the look that gimbals provide, the smooth shot. I probably put warp stabilizer on way too many handheld shots in my life. So I
And
was
by gimbal, do you mean like the old school like glide cams, or do you mean like where it
yeah.
was cranes and
So
all that
so
stuff out?
both. So
Okay.
both. I was definitely interested in like the Ronin side of things as well as like glide cam as well.
Mm-hmm.
I was terrible at glide. I had a glide cam like HG2000 and I was terrible. So if that was any indicator, I probably should have turned tail and run because I was miserable at it. Could not balance it to save my life. But I don't know how he roped me into it, but he got me to sign up for this workshop. And at the time, I think my wife and I were saving up for our first home. So I was like, "Hey, is it cool if I spend X amount of money to take this workshop in another state that will have to pay for stay in this workshop? And I may not even want to do this as a career, but I want to find out about it." So that was a fun conversation.
Sounds like it.
But my wife is super supportive, has been, my biggest fan, as well as my family since I started. And she's like, go for it. Like, pursue your dreams, sort of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I took the workshop and the rest is kind of history. Fell in love with Steadicam operating. Yeah, it's been an interesting journey.
And you ended up going the I think it's CGI Pro. CGI Pro route?
GPI Pro.
GPI Pro.
Yeah, so there are a couple of like main brands when it comes to Steadicam, and Steadicam is kind of like a coined term for all of these sleds, is what they're, sled, arm, vest. But Steadicam itself is Tiffin's brand. GPI Pro is another brand that also makes a Steadicam. XCS is another one. There's quite a few more out there. But yeah, I do the GPI.
And I've always felt like I was fancy because when how long ago was this? 2014, so 5 years ago. I got the Steadicam Solo, which was like the lowest. It was essentially a glide clam, like an HD 2000.
Yeah.
But it was by Tiffin, so it was a Steadicam. So
Totally.
I got all the Steadicam stickers, and I was like, I'm so official.
Heck yeah.
And like I threw a 7-inch monitor on it. I'm like rocking this thing, and it's like, it's so tiny compared to like the real thing. And like I've never had to use a vest for it, which kind of like even a glide cam, I feel like you throw a vest on it, it's like you kind of look like you know what you're doing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, the vest definitely gives you like an imposing, like that guy. Yeah, he means business.
Yeah,
I mean, don't let it get you wrong. Most of the time, I have no idea what I'm doing. But no, but man, the Solo, it's a great place to start. I mean, you got to start somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the most important thing is don't be afraid, by any entry level or, professional level of gear. Like you got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
So there's no right or wrong for that.
I feel like the Steadicam Solo was like, I feel like the product never got what it deserved because it does a great job.
Sure.
But there was a YouTube video that like, I want to say had like 19,000 views, and it was just this dude. It was the video looked good, and he was just railing on it because he couldn't balance his, and it looked like a very well done video. So all these people watching it are like, oh, that thing's a piece of junk. And it's like, no, it's actually perfectly fine. He just doesn't know how to balance his. And I think that one video could very well have like tanked that entire product. Because they like no longer carry them, and also like the prices, like it wouldn't even be worth selling mine. I think I got mine for like $500 or something like that.
Sure.
It's like $200 now. But
yeah,
I guess it's another accolade you can put on the shelf. Tell me about Video Village.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Because that thing is, it seems like it's one of those things that has like grown a legs of its own.
Sure.
And it's kind of like I'm not on Facebook much like at all anymore, but when I am, and I like peep in on it, it's like just a booming place. And it was just funny how you are connected to it, but I'll let you tell that story.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's funny you say that because to me, it's like I don't really think anything of it. But essentially, it's a Video Village is a Facebook group that stemmed from another one called Super Secret Filmmakers Group, SSFG. There's a talented DP out of New England, Evan Borsier. He started.
That makes more sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he had a podcast for a while. I'm not sure if he does them anymore.
Well, I know him from the Lens Pro to Go stuff.
Sure.
That's where I knew him from.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So he got his name definitely in like the YouTube world and had a podcast and started the first group, Super Secret Film Group. And there were thousands of members in it. At the time, I think he closed it down for personal reasons, and it essentially was closed. So nobody could really comment or whatever, talk on it. And it was such an important asset to so many filmmakers. So a few friends of mine were like, okay, let's just make another one. And we did. And this is the product of that. I think at the time we named it Super Secret Film Group 2.0 or something silly. And then we eventually just renamed it to Video Village. And it's been an awesome resource for a lot of filmmakers, myself included, whether you're looking for crew out of the country, out of state, local, whatever it may be. If you have a question about gear, it's kind of all facets. You can rub shoulders with filmmakers of all tiers, all over the world. And it's been a really awesome place for networking and community.
That's what I've always thought was cool about it, is that like you will see some like phenomenal work coming out of it. Like I think no, I'm getting it mixed up. Ben Halford might be in it, but I know I met him through an anamorphic Facebook group, And then, are you familiar with him? Ben Halford?
What was his name?
Ben Halford.
Ben Halford. The name sounds familiar, but I'm not.
Phenomenal. I don't know where he's out of, but he might be in the group.
Cool.
But like, just like that high level stuff. But I mean, like caravan level stuff. But it's, so you got like people that are just starting out and then that like get in there somehow, because I think a friend of mine, Taylor Drake, invited me to it. Do you know Taylor?
Mm-hmm. I do. I know Adam.
We've talked about. Oh, that's right.
Yep.
So you don't know Taylor from before Adam?
Correct.
Gotcha.
I met Taylor through Adam. Yep.
Gotcha. But yeah, it's just crazy that like there's just everybody's there.
Sure.
And I've seen it, where like it's Facebook. People can churn a certain way. Some people are just dicks.
Absolutely.
It just happens.
Yeah. It's something about social media in general or just online presence. People are different beasts online.
Well, and the way that like I found out that you were an admin, which I could have easily like just seen on like the about tab.
Sure.
But we were having coffee and I was like, have you ever heard of Video Village? And I was just talking about like this thing called Video Village.
Yeah.
Yeah, I made it. And I was like, how often does that happen to you? Does that happen? I feel like that's a thing.
Not really.
Really?
Well, like once or twice. It's not like, oh yeah, I made Video Village.
Yeah.
It's not really something that I'm like, it doesn't like feel anything special, And it's like I didn't really make it. It was more so just like a few friends who were like,
yeah,
let's bring this awesome resource back, So it's not really like a specifically person, not an individual who owns it or started it per se, but it's just been like an awesome asset for a lot of people.
Well, and you treated another project kind of similarly in that aspect where it's like you're just kind of like that kind of chill personality, or non-braggadocious at all. And I don't know if you are willing to talk about it on air because it was technically shelved and it was like high-level people, but like the little, you called it like Iceberg Boys? It was like the super group thing. Could you like talk about that at all?
Yeah. Oh man. It was a difficult project. I was doing Steadicam on a music video in Atlanta for a few well-known rap artists, Migos, Lil Yachty, and Gucci Mane, which if you know anything about rap, they're titans of the industry.
Mm-hmm.
This was earlier on in my Steadicam career as well, so I was geeking out a little bit. I was like, okay, this is pretty cool. Like, this is one of my first projects in a role where I'm operating a camera in front of these individuals. Little did I know that project was a handful.
Mm-hmm.
It was a tough day. Artists are difficult because they're artists. Oftentimes they feel like they can do what they want, which they can because they are this high tier, high level person who can just, people do, they bend to their will, so to speak. So we're on set for like 4 hours. We're already being rushed to prep and get everything set, and the artists don't show up for like 4 hours into the day. So we're just kind of in a holding pattern after like all this hurry up and wait,
Mm-hmm.
which is a common term. It's like, hurry up, hurry up, hurry up. Okay, now wait. So they finally show up on set. It was 100% Steadicam, which is totally fine. It happens a lot, which is great, especially for me where I'm like wanting to do more. But these were really intense Steadicam shots, oneers, if you will, which essentially it's a one take. It wasn't going to be used as a one take music video, but we were filming the track all the way through for coverage. It was just mismanaged from the producing side, so we're just doing unnecessary amount of takes. I didn't get any breaks. We didn't have it's little things, like it probably seems menial to some people, but we didn't get our lunch until like 9 hours into the day, which is, especially when you're operating a camera, whether it be Steadicam or handheld, you're burning a lot of calories and you're sweating. It was hot. Atlanta's hot. It was in the summer.
Yeah.
So it was tough. Like you gotta feed your crew. You gotta take care of your people, and they'll take care of you. I'm a firm believer in that. Treating everyone with respect on set, regardless of stature and position. And that wasn't really, unfortunately, the case here. But it was a great learning experience.
Mm-hmm.
I think at the end of the day, it was like it ended up being like a 14 or 15 hour day, which is a long, long day. My hips were bleeding from my vest, my Steadicam vest,
Like
just
chafing.
essentially chafing. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
just, so there's like the vest is padded, but there's like hard plastic parts. I was doing so many Dutch angles, which is basically I'm pulling the camera out and
Right.
I'm doing those slow turns.
Mm-hmm.
The weight is just off your body, and in Steadicam, the farther away the camera is and the rig is from your body, the harder it is, because the closer to the center of gravity of your body, the easier to manipulate and
Yeah.
operate. So it's just exhausting. And I was doing that for 14 hours, or I guess after they showed up, about 10 hours straight. Um, no breaks. It was just brutal.
Mm-hmm.
So was a great learning experience. Knowing what kind of projects you get into and asking the appropriate questions, making sure not only that you're set up for success, but you can set production up for success as well. Because ultimately, it's like, you're hired to do a specific task, a specific role. You want to do that to the best of your ability. So if you come in unprepared, or not really knowing what your role is gonna entail, then
Mm-hmm.
you can't mentally prepare yourself, or prepare yourself with the proper tools as well. So
Yeah.
it was something.
I mean, it's definitely a footnote for your life. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, once again, a shelved project because it was shelved, right?
It was.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that sucks.
Which
but
is crazy because the scope of it was massive.
I bet.
They had, if you're familiar with a techno crane at all,
Yeah.
or also called like a jimmy jib, they had a techno crane ready for these exterior shots, which is essentially, it's like a giant telescoping jib, that you can get incredible shots with it. People dream of using them on shoots, and they had one on this music video. And because we didn't reach our deadline on the day, or meet our schedule, they just canned it. Like, all right, you guys can go home. So, hey,
Man, it's rough.
must be nice.
I guess bringing it back to like Steadicam is like in this world today, like I think if people don't already have a respect, or I guess it depends on like people's perspective. There's people that have like a huge respect for Steadicam.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've operated Steadicams, like
Sure.
vestless or whatever.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm decent at it. Some people are impressed.
Sure.
But like if you don't already have that respect for like it's an art and a science for sure. And it's 2019 and there's like running SM Crane
Sure.
2, Crane V, like all this crap. There's reasons to use either of them.
Totally.
Like it's like there's a tool for every job. Kind
Absolutely.
Of thing. But like, is there something that you could say for the people that like don't realize the magnitude of like Steadicam as a craft and also as like what you end up seeing on the screen?
Yeah.
Is there something you could tell the people that like are just so into gimbals, but like there's a 5% chance that they might like convert?
Totally. Yeah, no, I'm as well, I'm a firm believer in there's a right tool for every job. I think gimbal, Ronin, Movi, that whole world is incredible. I couldn't do it because I can't balance a Movi to save my life. But I have appreciation for the operators, the Movi techs and operators out there, because they're studs as well. And it's not an easy job. It's physically demanding, as Steadicam is. I'd say the differentiation between Steadicam and Movi, I mean, you can see it in the shot.
Yeah.
A great Movi cam operator, you won't see what I call swimming, which is where the camera kind of bobs up and down in the frame, often from steps. It's your footsteps, and that's why Steadicam is so important in footwork as well as just operating with your hand and light touches on the gimbal. But you can feel the difference where Steadicam flows a little more nicely. It's got a little more of a floatier look. You can get operators who you have those steps in there, especially with heavier builds. If you're stepping heavier, you can see those. But Steadicam, I feel like, just allows you to do those long one takes and have a little bit more range and mobility. You can do a little bit more with a Steadicam, in my opinion. Or rather, you can do things differently.
Right.
You know, you can't pass a Steadicam through a window like you can a movie.
Right.
But there's a plethora of incredible, you know, going from low mode to high mode. You know, there are operators out there with Trinity rigs or Omega rigs, which essentially it's a Steadicam that can do twists and turns.
Yeah.
And
It's the gimbal with the Steadicam, right? It's like
essentially,
Yeah.
yeah, it's basically like you have a head that can do 360s and turn with it, or the camera stays horizon the whole time, whereas you can take the whole rig, vertical, horizontal, up, down, left, right. You know, you can take it anywhere.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty incredible tool.
I actually just heard recently, or it's something that I had never heard before, and it was saying that you mentioned the swimming. I can notice that sometimes when it's bad, but when it's like super subtle, often like I won't see it unless I'm looking for it.
Right. You've got to be looking for it. Most people aren't going to notice it unless you're looking for it.
Right. And someone was saying that like a lot of the times the reason some people will pick Steadicam over gimbal is for the reason alone that like Ronins and stuff like that don't do well with vertical stabilization, period. Now, I'm not saying Ronin the brand, but like the whole thing is that like that they're good at this everything else, but for some reason like this hasn't been figured out, and it makes sense because with the arm, like, that's the whole purpose. Kind of.
Yeah, the arm's isoelastic, so it, you know, it's absorbing so much. You know, I've had tough shots where, you know, you're squeezing through a doorway. You know, if you bang the sled side where the camera is against the doorway, you're going to see that in camera. But I've had times where I'm brushing up and my arm brushes up against the doorway and you don't see a thing in camera because that's absorbing everything.
Oh, that's wild.
Yeah, it's, you know, it's a pretty incredible piece of equipment for sure.
You know Chivo? What's Chivo's real name? Emmanuel Lubinsky? Lubeski? You know who I'm talking about, right?
I do. I would butcher it.
Okay. Well, like I'm a huge fan whenever him and Terrence Malick work together.
Yeah.
Because it's nothing but like 16 mil on a Steadicam kind of thing.
Absolutely.
And it's just like natural light. Like it's just so self-indulgent.
Sure.
Story and visuals. But I actually got to go. I wanted to see Knights of Cups in theaters. I missed it because it was only in town for like 2 days. So then they came out with a recent one with Ryan Gosling, and it was about like a concert, and Michael Fassbender was in it. Not very good. It was not great.
Okay.
But it's a Malick and Chivo thing, so
sure,
I loved it anyway. But I remember I was in the theater and I audibly gasped because there was one scene where I could tell it was an electronic gimbal that Chivo switched from Steadicam. I don't know if it was a second unit thing, but like I could tell, and I was just stunned and kind of ticked off a little bit. I was like, I expected more out of you.
Totally.
But it's just weird because like my friends are like, "What?" I'm like, "That's electronic." They're like, "How do you know?" I'm like, "I know." But
I could feel it.
Yeah.
Your skin stood up on your arm.
That story is way more pretentious when said aloud than in my head.
No, you know.
Because you can tell, right? You can definitely tell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you know, there are shots where sometimes you can't. I mean, I'm sure there are shots where you can't tell because if they're out there and I haven't been able to point it out, then they got me. You know.
Yeah.
But you know, like I said, there's a tool for everything. There's reasons for everything. A lot of times people just don't want to have to rebalance. You know, balancing a camera on a movie versus a Steadicam is it's similar but different. When you have a camera and you need to do a lens swap on a movie, it's so much more intensive to rebalance that thing. Whereas Steadicam, it's just a fore and aft adjustment.
Yeah.
Because for the most part, lensing, if it's a proper lens set, the elements and the lenses themselves are going to be sized similarly.
That's true.
If it's like a cinema lens set, occasionally, you know, you're going to have lenses that are, you know, an 85 to a 35. The front end might be heavier or longer. But like I said, you know, it's just there are knobs on the top of on the top stage is what it's called on the sled of the Steadicam. And that's just a quick adjustment.
Yeah.
And there are plates that you can have on a Steadicam that you can put on a tripod called an SOS plate, where you can literally pop off of the Steadicam straight onto a tripod and not need another plate.
Do you not do that at all?
No, I do.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. I have that. And but there are operators who don't,
I thought that was like the standard for like just to get it started.
sure. Well, oftentimes the plates for a Steadicam they're not the same type of a dovetail that would go
Mm.
on a pair of sticks. So you need that special adapter plate that you can just hot swap it really quick. And then, if you have your measurements taken properly, you can just throw it back on your sled and you're good to go. It's a lot harder to do that in a movie because it's so fine tuned as a Steadicam is, but you can't necessarily just put it right back in the same spot and it'd be perfectly fine.
Right. Kind of just to like bring everything together. Where do you want to go with everything?
Yeah.
Like where would be I don't want to do it like where do you see yourself in 5 years? I want to do like if life worked exactly the way that you would like it to do for you, your family, career and everything, like what type of work and like at what level and like how frequently, like what would be like your dream schedule look like?
Totally. Yeah, it's a tough question. I'm super blessed right now. I'm really content with where I've had the opportunity to be at. I think everybody always wants to aspire to something more. So I think if I was looking at it from a perspective place of like where I want to be, probably, solely DPing. Not that I don't love Steadicam. I think I just love DPing more.
Yeah.
I'd probably be working commercials. I love commercial work. There's a lot of commercial DPs out there who would say like, I'm so over the commercial look. I want to do something a little more experimental, whether that's music videos or I want to work in the narrative field. Like there are people who want to do features full time for their life, which is incredible, and like more power to you.
Yeah.
I think my wife and I just had our first baby a month and a half ago, so having
Congratulations again.
thank you. But having a family makes things different because you have to think about them. I can't just think about myself and my career. I have to make decisions as a family unit, with my wife, because that impacts their life and my son's life. And so, whereas features sound good, I don't think I'm at a place where I'd want to take on a feature.
Yeah.
I think there are people who are ready to jump into a feature just starting out as a cinematographer doing video, which is awesome. I think I want to put my name on something where I'd be happy with it. And I think there's so much to learn with narrative work and pacing. So commercials are great. I love music video and the doc world as well. It's hard being away for months at a time.
Yeah.
Especially with a family.
For sure.
So, and I want to be a part of my family's life. I don't want to be gone for X amount of time, and there are the occasional projects where you're gone, which, you got to do what you got to do. You got to do what's best for providing for your family. But I think commercials are a fun place and I enjoy them.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's interesting. I had, well, you have a lot of free time, right?
Sure. Yeah. Oh, let me answer that with so I think the biggest misconception with people who look like they're busy all the time is they are not busy all the time. There's like the exception of a few people who are just always busy, but especially as a freelancer, you're going to have downtime. You can't let that get you down. I let that get me down a lot.
Kind of a benefit sometimes.
Right. Absolutely. Like, yeah, enjoy it. Like as a mental break, like, you need to give yourself those reprieves.
Yeah.
Because it's not healthy to constantly be grinding away. As freelancers, we are our business. We're business owners.
Yeah.
We're selling ourselves and our ability. So, when an average person can go home from a 9 to 5 and not have to think about work, at least for myself, I lay in bed and I'm like, okay, did I send that invoice? Did I respond to that email? There's so many things.
Mhm.
Business doesn't stop.
Yeah.
Being a business owner, it doesn't stop. You're constantly having to think about something and work on something. So I think giving yourself, whether it be forcibly or um, just not having work, giving yourself time to recoup and pick up a hobby, let your brain refresh and be put in a spot where you can take on the next project with 110% and not be withered from going from project to project to project to project, because it's going to take a toll on your creative ability, your mental capacity, and it's not healthy.
Absolutely.
Eat an apple,
Yeah.
read a book.
And I think that like that's a perfect answer. That's kind of like I want more free time. I think if I didn't have to edit, I would have that free time.
Sure.
Like if it was just like plan, shoot, or I'm thinking about like going just the gaffer route, or at least to try it.
Yeah.
So people are gonna get DM'd after this for sure.
Sure.
But I think that was perfect advice, and I think it's a great way to close.
Yeah.
And appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, man. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and thank you for coming in after coming back from a extended stay shoot.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, after that question, my wife's probably, she'll be listening to this and just be laughing like, haha, you've been gone for this long.
Wasn't that kind of the point? I completely forgot. You like there was a special shoot that you had just done that you wanted to talk about.
Oh, yeah.
All right, we'll have to edit some things.
Okay.
Switch some things.
That's the rewind.
Okay.
So yeah, no, I had the opportunity to work with a great friend of mine, Scott Jones, in Orlando a few weeks ago on
Someone brought his name up recently.
Hudson. Was it Hudson?
It was.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Hudson and Scott are boys.
Gotcha.
Scott's incredible. He's a filmmaker from Charlotte. He and his wife are big Disney fans and started an Instagram and like a social brand and an apparel company called Oh Yeah Disney. You should check them out. It's pretty wild. They do vlogs and photos and video and all this stuff. So being a filmmaker, it looks incredible, which I think gave them the edge. Really, it's awesome work. But had the opportunity to DP a small commercial for him and Disney a couple weeks ago, which was going back to the early question of kind of milestone things. That's definitely one of them for me. I think being able to do a job for Disney. I'm a big Disney fan myself, so
yeah,
it was pretty awesome. It was an incredible piece. It was an overnight 15-second social spot, which doesn't sound like much, but we were setting up lights for an overnight exterior where we had a blank canvas.
Yeah.
So if if someone knows much about lighting, it can be a little bit of a daunting task.
Yeah.
Where you have all these potential possibilities. So it was awesome though. It came out great.
Great. And well, like you said, like location is a lot. So
yeah,
you had one of the best locations. Like I couldn't imagine an outsider trying to get access to stuff like that. But I do remember seeing some stories. One was you were railing on the dude for his Matthew Dolly not having tracks. And was that the Indiana Jones thing? I think I've seen that. When
We had the privilege of going into one of the parks the day before the shoot, and we watched the Indiana Jones live experience, and essentially it's like a film set with the stunt work, and they have the crew positions of the second AC and the first and second AD and director and the DP, and it's just funny because they have this dolly which is meant to look like a Fisher dolly, but it's basically a Matthews doorway dolly that has this this like gear head on it, but there's like no support for it, and it basically looks like it's just like plastic.
Mm-hmm.
So being industry professionals as myself and my buddy Levi we were kind of just like joking around. Obviously we weren't really scrutinizing this show because it was incredible, but it's just funny going back and watching it again from watching it growing up. You pick up these things. You're like, oh, wait a second, that's not right.
Yeah.
So it was fun.
I think I've been to that. I was at that show when I was 7 years old.
Yeah.
I think I saw the exact same one. That was crazy. And then I did see some behind the scenes. Like it wasn't really a lighting setup, but I was just kind of like replaying it. I'm like, what has he got going on? Where it was like, and I don't know if you're allowed to talk about it. It's like this walking area. There was like a shop or something.
Yeah.
And on the far right side, you had like you were shooting what looked like a warmish light
Yeah.
you're basically book lighting.
Exactly.
And so were you like did you light most of the stuff like from the ground, or did you get to light anything from up high?
So the tough thing about overnights is, you want to light to motivate properly. Luckily, we had a lot of practicals in the park we were shooting to motivate off of, which is where a lot of the warmer feel came from. You're exactly right. We book light. We hit it with a book light. We had initially I was pitching a weather balloon bounce, which was like
Right.
you throw it up in the sky, you hit it with a strong HMI, and you get that moonlight sort of a look. We had a couple HMIs that were higher output. It just didn't read for me personally.
It just wasn't floating your boat.
It didn't feel right. It felt a little unnatural, especially in a place where we had so much warm tungsten light coming from. So I decided to lean with it. It was a Christmas spot, so leaning a little warmer felt right, anyways. So yeah, we had that book light. We had a couple little Lecos and little small inkies and moles just to warm up the scene, and yeah, it was fun.
That's awesome.
It was a challenge, but it was great.
Is that going to be broadcast?
I don't think it's gonna be broadcast. I think it's just
Okay.
gonna be social, but hopefully we'll see something soon.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. I think we're gonna wrap on
Cool.
this one. All right. Appreciate you, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks.